I'm a 40-year-old man from a big family, the second eldest of 9 siblings. My older sister, Lila, is just a year older than me. There's a 6-year gap between me and the next sibling, with my mother having children every couple of years after that. Being the eldest, Lila and I were always responsible for caring for our younger siblings and handling household chores. Adults often referred to us as Lila, Opie, and the kids, as if we weren't kids ourselves but rather extra adults in the household. We were homeschooled, so we were always at home. My role included waking up early, preparing breakfast for the younger ones, and getting them started on their schoolwork or activities before tackling my own studies. Lila, a night owl, handled nighttime duties, especially with the youngest, as there was always a baby in the house. Lila and I managed most of the household tasks. We split duties like cleaning the kitchen and doing the laundry, which was a massive job. I took care of guy tasks like mowing the lawn and taking out the trash. As I grew older, I passed some of these chores to my younger brothers, but I was still responsible for ensuring they got done. When I got my driver's license, I ran errands and drove the kids to appointments or playdates. I can't count how many times I shuttled them to doctor's visits or social events. I often tucked the younger ones into bed and read them stories. Back then it felt normal, but looking back, I realize I was more like a second parent than a sibling. As teens, Lila and I had some freedom to hang out with friends as long as our chores were done. We didn't have cell phones back then. If we wanted to go out, we'd just inform our parents, and they were fine with it as long as we were back by morning. I moved out at 20 but still spent a lot of time at my parents' house, and one of my younger siblings was almost always at my place. Stepmom insisted I pay $800 in rent, so I kicked her out, along with her 2 lazy kids, and reclaimed the $1,200,000 house my grandparents secretly left me. Edit, wow, this exploded overnight. Thank you all for the overwhelming support and attention. I'll do my best to respond to questions in the comments. To those calling this fake, I wish it was. LOL. Yes, I have evidence, but I'm keeping it private for legal reasons. Edit 2, for clarity, I'm 22 female. My dad is 46 male. My stepmom, let's call her Trina, is 43 female. My stepbrother Bryce is 25 male, and my stepsister Sadie is 21 female. These aren't their real names, obviously. Alright, grab a snack, this is going to be a long one. There's a lot to unpack, and I've been bottling this up for weeks, so bear with me. Background: my mom passed away from breast cancer when I was 8. It was devastating, and my dad was a wreck, barely holding it together for the first year. My grandparents, absolute angels, stepped in to help raise me while Dad tried to keep his business afloat. A key detail about the house comes into play later. My grandparents were financially comfortable, not ultra-wealthy, but well off enough to buy a spacious 4-bedroom home in one of Boston's nicer neighborhoods. Their plan was for us to live together so they could help raise me properly. It worked great for a while. But then 2 years after Mom's death, Dad met Trina, not her real name, but it suits her, at a business conference in Chicago. He was there to expand his consulting firm, and she was an event planner. Dad said they hit it off. Trina probably saw a vulnerable widower with a business and pounced, moving cross-country to be with him after only 3 months. 6 months later, they were married. Major red flags. Background: my mom passed away from breast cancer when I was 8. It was devastating, and my dad was a wreck, barely holding it together for the first year. My grandparents, absolute angels, stepped in to help raise me while Dad tried to keep his business afloat. A key detail about the house comes into play later. My grandparents were financially comfortable, not ultra-wealthy, but well off enough to buy a spacious 4-bedroom home in one of Boston's nicer neighborhoods. Their plan was for us to live together so they could help raise me properly. It worked great for a while. But then 2 years after Mom's death, Dad met Trina, not her real name, but it suits her, at a business conference in Chicago. He was there to expand his consulting firm, and she was an event planner. Dad said they hit it off. Trina probably saw a vulnerable widower with a business and pounced, moving cross-country to be with him after only 3 months. 6 months later, they were married. Major red flags. Here's where it gets messy. Trina brought her 2 kids along. Bryce, now 25, was 11 and already a spoiled jerk. Sadie, now 21, was 7 and seemed okay at first, but Trina molded her into a mini version of herself. My grandparents were polite but skeptical, whispering late at night about how Trina might be after Dad's money. Spoiler, they were right. But they stayed quiet for Dad's sake, as he seemed happy for the first time since Mom died. The first few years were rough. Trina started with subtle jabs about the house's outdated decor, it wasn't, the kitchen needing a remodel, it didn't, and how my grandparents were stuck in their ways. Then she got bolder, rearranging furniture without asking, tossing out Mom's old keepsakes claiming they were clutter, and slowly taking over the house. My grandparents were too kind to confront her, and Dad was too smitten to notice. Then the chores started. At first, it seemed fair, everyone should pitch in, right? Except everyone meant me. Bryce was too busy with sports, he was terrible at basketball, but Trina made Dad pay for private lessons. Sadie was too young. Despite being just a year younger than me. By age 12, I was doing most of the cooking and cleaning. Trina would inspect my work like a drill sergeant, checking for dust on baseboards, while Bryce's room reeked of cheap cologne and pizza crusts, and Sadie's floor was a sea of clothes she meant to put away. Here's the bombshell I only recently learned. My grandparents passed away in 2019, Grandma from heart issues, Grandpa 3 months later, unable to go on without her. They put the house in my name. Legally, it's mine. All mine. They must have foreseen this drama and wanted to protect me, but no one told me. Dad knew but didn't think it was worth mentioning. Huge mistake. Trina didn't know either, or she'd have tried to worm her name onto the deed. 4 years, I lived like a maid in my own house, cooking, cleaning, washing everyone's laundry, including Bryce's sweaty gym gear, while Trina lounged, watching reality TV and complaining about how I folded her towels wrong. Bryce graduated college, barely, and I suspect Dad pulled strings, and hasn't worked since, claiming he's building a career as a content creator. His social media has 200 followers, mostly him doing awful dance videos. Sadie's in her 3rd year of college, supposedly studying business but really just partying and posting aesthetic coffee shop pics. Dad funds everything, her barely used apartment, her car, crashed twice, and her credit cards, which she maxes out monthly. Meanwhile, I worked part-time at a coffee shop, took online classes, did all the housework, and saved every penny because Trina kept hinting I needed to contribute financially. The day it all went down started like any other miserable day. I just finished an 8-hour shift at the coffee shop, dealing with a customer screaming about oat milk, another story. Exhausted, I came home to cook dinner, or else Bryce might starve, and Sadie would never look up from her phone. I'm in the kitchen trying a new pasta recipe I found online when Trina struts in, wearing a dress she claims is designer, probably from a discount rack. She's got that look, like she's about to ruin my day. She sits at the island, watching me cook, and I'm already bracing for her to nitpick my sauce. Then she drops it, "It's time we had a serious talk about your living situation."
I'm confused. My living situation?
I've been here longer than her. She goes on, "Your dad and I think it's only fair you start paying rent. You're working now, so it's not right for you to live here free while we cover your expenses."
I'm standing there, stirring sauce, on the floor. The audacity.
I hear Bryce upstairs yelling about his video game stats and Sadie's phone blaring social media sounds from the living room. Ask, trying to stay calm, "What about Bryce and Sadie? Are they paying rent?" Trina does this fake cough, dabbing her lips with a napkin despite not eating, and says, "That's different. They're my kids, and they're still figuring out their paths."
I almost logged.
Bryce's path is failing at video games for an audience of 3, and Sadie hasn't cracked a textbook since her first college party. Then Trina lays out her fair rent, $800 a month, plus utilities, and I'd still do chores. I'm stirring sauce, and something snaps. Years of being treated like a servant, cleaning up after her kids, washing Bryce's gross socks, picking up Sadie's fake eyelashes, it all hits me. I turn off the stove, safety first, set down the spoon, and look Trina dead in her overdone face. "Let me get this straight, Nellie," I say, voice steady. Bryce, who hasn't earned a cent and yells at kids online all day, doesn't pay rent. Sadie, who spends Dad's money on clothes and has never touched a mop, doesn't pay rent. But I do. Trina's face twitches. She's not used to me pushing back. She starts babbling about how I'm more independent and family supports family. That's when I decide to drop my own bomb. I call everyone to the dining room, saying we need to discuss this as a family. Bryce grumbles about pausing his game, Sadie acts like getting off the couch is torture, but they eventually sit. Trina repeats her rent plan like she's running a board meeting, with Bryce smirking and Sadie filming for her socials. Then I say it, I'm not paying rent because this house is mine. The silence, oh my gosh, I wish I'd recorded it. Bryce's fork freezes mid-bite, pasta falling. Sadie's jaw drops, no filter needed. Trina's face glitches like a buffering screen, unable to process. They burst out laughing, thinking it's a joke. Bryce snorts, "What, did you see that on the internet?" Sadie's already filming, probably planning her family drama post. Trina tries to laugh but looks nervous, saying, "This house belongs to me and your dad." I lean back, channeling my inner movie villain, and say, "Why don't you call Dad and ask?" Trina dials him on speaker, confident she's about to win. Dad picks up, sounding tired, probably from funding Bryce's career. Trina says, "Mark, Lucy's saying the house is hers. That's not true, right?"
The pause is glorious.
Dad clears his throat and says, "Actually, my in-laws put the house in Lucy's name before they passed." Boom.
Trina S fascicle trou évricolore. Red, white, then a word green.
"What do you mean it's in her name?" she shrieks. "When were you going to tell me?" Dad mumbles, "I didn't think it was a big deal."
Classic dad.
Trina hangs up, slamming her phone so hard I hoped it'd crack. Bryce looks like he just realized his gaming setup is in my house. Sadie's still filming, but her face screams panic. Trina tries to backtrack, saying, "Let's forget this rent talk, Lucy." But I'm done. Done with their nonsense. Done being their maid. I smile and say, "Oh, we're not forgetting. In fact, let's talk about your living situation." Trina's horrified look? Better than any gift I've ever gotten. My phone buzzes with texts from Dad, probably panicking about the legal documents proving I own the house. After that dinner, I went to bed feeling unstoppable, like I'd finally stood up to a bully. But Trina wasn't done. The next morning, I overhear her on the phone with Dad, on speaker of course, trying to convince him to kick me out of my house. She says, "Mark, Lucy's causing trouble. What about those out-of-state colleges she applied to? Tell her it's good for her independence." Then, in her fake sweet voice, "I'm worried about her mental health. All this anger isn't healthy." Excuse me? The only thing hurting my mental health is living with her. Dad, to my shock, says, "Maybe you're right. I'll talk to her about moving out." I'm floored. My own dad, who I supported after Mom died, is siding with her?
He walk into the kitchen like he heard nothing.
Trina nearly drops her phone, clutching her world's best mom mug, a dollar store gift from her kids. She fake smiles, saying, "Morning, sweetie, I made coffee." She didn't. She used my Keurig. Bryce shuffles in, looking like he gamed all night, and Sadie follows, already in full makeup. At breakfast, which I cooked because Trina can't, the tension is thick. Bryce eats cereal while scrolling, Sadie poses with her uneaten toast, and Trina pretends to check emails but is clearly Googling how to evict someone who owns your house. I decide to have fun. "Trina," I say casually, "I thought about your rent idea. You're right, people should pay to live here. Market rates say $1,200 per person, so that's $3,600 for you, Bryce and Sadie, plus utilities and a deposit." Chaos erupts. Bryce chokes on his cereal, Sadie's toast falls on her shirt, and Trina looks like she's about to faint.
"You can't be serious," she stammer.
"We're family." I pull out my phone, playing the recording of her plotting to ship me off. Their faces? Priceless.
Things get wilder.
Trina jumps up, knocking over her mug, it doesn't break sadly, screaming that recording her is illegal. I calmly say, "It's a one-party consent state. Also my house, my rules." Bryce is stunned, milk on his chin. Sadie's texting her friends. Trina paces, muttering about her lawyer cousin who handles DUIs, then tries to guilt-trip me, "Lucy, this anger isn't healthy. Maybe college in Michigan would help." I cut her off, "I'm not going anywhere.
This is my house.
If anyone's leaving, it's you." Trina loses it, calling me names I won't repeat, ranting about how she sacrificed for me, by making me her maid, and how I'm destroying our family.
Bryce yell, "This is BS."
I'm about to go viral. He's not.
Sadie scream, "Daddy won't let you do this."
He doesn't care. I sip my coffee, watching them unravel. Trina calls Dad again, expecting him to save her, but I'd already texted him the recording. He says, "Tracy, it's her house. Maybe we should find a new place."
The silence is deafening.
Trina's face shows pure fear. She's losing her free ride. Then she makes her worst move. She gets in my face, saying, "I don't care whose name is on the deed. This is my house, and I'll make your life hell." Perfect. I'd recorded everything and already consulted a lawyer, thanks, online forums. My grandparents didn't just leave me the house, they set up a trust to make it untouchable. My lawyer laughed at Trina's threats. The next day, I went full nuclear. I served them all eviction notices with official court papers. Trina tried to refuse them, but that's not how it works. Bryce threw his gaming chair down the stairs, breaking it. Sweet justice. Sadie had a meltdown on social media, gaining a few followers. Trina called every lawyer in town, but word spread, she had no case. She posted a sob story online about her cruel stepdaughter, but my mom's friend Emma dropped screenshots of Trina's awful behavior over the years, tanking her reputation. Trina's fancy friends ditched her fast. Then Trina tried stealing my mom's jewelry, left to me by my grandparents. I'd installed cameras after the eviction notices, thanks, forums, and caught her on video stuffing necklaces into her cheap purse. I called the police, showed the footage, and filed a report. Trina's fake tears didn't work. The officer wasn't buying her family excuse. I haven't pressed charges yet, as it strengthens my eviction case. My lawyer's thrilled that Trina's independent wealth was a lie. She has nowhere to go and is panicking. She begged my aunt for help, who sent her sketchy apartment listings. Even Dad stepping up, saying he won't go with her if she doesn't leave quietly. He's finally done with her after 12 years. The best part? Trina tried one last stunt before the eviction deadline, calling a family meeting in a knockoff designer suit, claiming she was choosing to leave to escape the negativity. She gave a speech about taking the high road, then tried to drop a final bombshell. The original story cuts off here, so I'll assume she tried one last manipulation that failed. It didn't work. They're gone, and I'm finally free. I'll update if anything else happens.